Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing experiences, true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, which is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. And there are many ways to support the show. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can also sign up for the Patreon feed and get extra content there, and that you can have all that for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store and get all kinds of shirts and then some other items there, with more to come soon. Actually, as this will be coming out as I'm recording this tomorrow, so. Actually, I plan on Tuesday, most of the evening, trying to put some more things up in the shop. So, in honor of Halloween and the 5th anniversary of the show. So, and support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. I do again want to thank everyone in recent days and weeks and this last couple of months who has donated to the show. Uh, I've had some amazing donations of technology, of a laptop and most recently a desktop, and then a headset as well at one point a little while back. That they they make the show so much better. All this stuff that for anyone that doesn't know, that doesn't do any of these kind of things, uh, it's not quite as easy as just jumping on any old microphone and talking. And so there's all the tech you have that you have to keep up to date as well as you can, and all that does cost money. So I do appreciate all the support of the show, and without everyone doing that, whenever you're able, the show would not be as decent as it is now. So. Also, please follow friends of the show on their own pages and web pages and channels and all that. That would be, of course, Jen, the Arcane Observer, who has her own channel and joins me and this show on Saturdays whenever possible. Uh, and then also Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own 24/7 online for free. So we will do at least a good, I would say, 8 to 12. I'll share at least about 8 to 12 true stories tonight here in the show to make it close to an hour long. And I think that should do it. It's usually about how long it takes to get through enough true stories to get through two of the shorter, the regular length episodes. And so I like to make the Saturday shows at least an hour whenever possible. We had a couple that ended up being shorter, but still do what I can. So let me get to the document here, and I will read the first one I have for you all. So also, just a reminder, I do accept listener submissions, listeners' experiences. If you want to type out something for me to read on the show, or if you want to join me on the show to talk about your experiences with the paranormal or unexplained or anything anomalous, you can always reach me through my email, which is salsidoparanormal@gmail.com. Very similar to the website. Uh, but you can also, if you're on Discord at all, you can find me on there as well. So, and the links to Discord servers, the server are always in the social media posts, and I believe even on my all my links page. So they're always available for you all to join the Discord server, which is also where I record the shows, and where everyone who is listening live can chat and contribute to the show with their own thoughts and questions and comments and things. So definitely recommend joining Discord as well. So this first one here It's a short one. Uh, this one says, so when he was about 10 years old, my friend saw this thing in his room. It was a man with a hat wearing a brown suit that looked like it was from the 40s, and the face of it was just a shadow. And it was about as tall as a door, so 2 meters or 6.5 feet tall. I'm thinking it could be the Hat Man, but it doesn't fit that it's a shadow man unless it still works. The thing just stood by the doorway and did nothing and then disappeared after that. It wasn't ever seen again. I would really like to know what kind of entity this could be. That's where that one ends. That one is fascinating to me because Brown. I don't know if Brown. I maybe someone out there can help me with this, but I always thought most shadows were black, like completely black. But I wonder if there's any kind of lighting that could make, I don't know, something appear to be a different color than black, like brown or something like that. I'm not sure. I have heard of different colored apparitions, blue, green, really just all different ones over the years here and there. So the writer there may be right. It may not be a the the exact description of a typical Hat Man shadow figure, but it does sound similar. But then there are plenty of apparitions that seem to have shadows where their faces should be. So it's really hard to tell, and this is why I always hesitate to classify anything um, too too definitely, too much, or say I know that this one apparition or that one is a certain thing. Uh, because again, I think a lot of shadow figures can be different things. So it's really I don't like to say anything for sure because I don't know for sure. And so yeah, but I wanted to share that one because I do think that the writer there brings up a valid point where it's almost like a Hat Man shadow figure, except it wasn't all shadow. So, uh, so yeah, that's something I wanted to share. Whenever it comes to I guess the longer ones or the shorter ones, there's always a reason why I still pick that one. I try to pick accounts that are like a medium length in general, but then if they have a certain point, then I'll I'll make exceptions and go with the ones that are different lengths instead. Excuse me. So moving on to the next one here. This one says, when I was about 8 years old, my family and I were in an old cabin, and there was a room that always creeped us out. It had pink walls. One day, while we were going into the hot tub, my sister saw the doorknob slightly turn and then saw something peeking out. That's not the only thing that happened. The last night that we were there, we all kept hearing chairs getting knocked over, even though there was no one downstairs. And we kept hearing footsteps on the stairs. We left as quickly as possible, and that's where that one ends. Uh, it does sound like there was some paranormal activity there. It sounds like possibly some being, whatever it may have been, or whoever they may have been. Uh, I'm just looking back at the beginning here. So they were in an old cabin. I'm guessing they mean they rented it, or they just stayed there for a brief time. I'm glad it wasn't a case where they were stuck in there. They were living there, but yeah, sounds like there was some activity there. Uh, Objects moving like that, like chairs being moved or knocked over, even that's a lot of sound. That's not you can't easily write that off, I don't think, as let's say the wood contracting or expanding. I wouldn't think. So so yeah, I don't know about that one. But I'd be curious, of course, you can't know, but I'd be curious about the history of the location and all that as well. Moving on to the next one here. I woke up one night, and when I sat up, I looked in my door frame and saw a translucent, pale figure in a white robe with deep black hair reaching her shoulders, just staring. At least I think so. Its face was distorted and blurry. It held nothing, its arms at its sides. I looked away for a split second, then looked back. It had apparently left. I went to school the next day, thinking nothing of it, until one of my closest friends told me about a similar sighting he had just minutes before mine. It was the same white robe, same shoulder length hair, and everything. But for some reason, it stayed there watching him. He blinked, it went away. He blinked again, and it came back, before vanishing once more, only moments before I saw it in my home. I don't really know if this was a coincidence or something, but I do know that to this day, when I describe the encounter, I feel a presence watching me, similar to the one I felt that day. And that's where that one ends. That is odd. Um, I wonder if, I don't know, some kind of ancestor or some kind of, I really don't know what that one. Uh, the idea of apparitions appearing in multiple places, it does happen. Um, there are those that seem to be stuck according to some experiences in particular locations, but then there's plenty of others where they seem to be able to go wherever they want to. Why they would go back and forth, it seems anyway that they went back and forth between these two homes of these two kids from the same class, I don't know. Uh, but so that one is odd, and it's amazing when you have. I mean, I'm sure it was terrifying as well, but it's amazing when you have one person who has this experience and does not tell anyone about it, but then one of their friends comes up to them afterward and says that I had this experience, and it lines up so well with timing with the first person's experience. That is odd, and it just makes me wonder: can when you're not, if you're just an energy field with consciousness attached to it, is teleportation or near teleportation a possibility? Can you just think and then be in a location, and then think and then be in another location? Um, I would feel like it almost is possible just based on reports and even reports where people see apparitions in one location in their home or in the building that they're in, or even outside one moment, and then they look away and they look back, and the figure is either much closer or much further away than they were. There's plenty of accounts of that as well, so it does seem like that is possible with the what appears to be some kind of either teleportation or something similar to it. So I think that's really fascinating to think about that. And so I don't know, but yeah, teleportation is possible. Yes, get a cat. It will be proven. This is true. Speaking of, I have Logan right next to me. Um, hopefully she's not bugging for food or water, but if I have to, I'll take a break. I'll make this 2 episodes if I need to. But anyway, we will see. I thought she was good before I started, but you never know. So, um, moving on to the next one here. She's just walking around my my leg and just gently like moving against it and then moving away, so I can't really pet her, of course. Anyway, that's my cat for anyone who is a newer listener to the podcast. So, moving on to the next one here. This one, let's see, let me scroll down so I can get the whole thing. Uh, oh, except I won't fit on the screen at one time, so I'll just scroll back up. This one says, "This must have happened to me when I was in middle school. I know I was busy studying for some test or quiz or some other assignment. I was sitting on my bed late at night with the only sources of light in my room being my computer screen on my lap, on my lap. No sound besides the tapping of keys. I must have been studying for an hour or so. I had been so drawn in that I was completely unaware of my surroundings. Yet somehow I felt something watching me. I knew something was watching me. For some stupid reason, I had left my bedroom door open, and as I looked up to entertain the idea of some entity watching me, I saw nothing. Nothing in my room or in the doorway, until my eyes adjusted to the darkness. Standing in the center of the doorframe was a person staring at me. I was obviously startled, but I recognized the figure enough to realize it was my mother. But she was never up this late. She was always asleep much earlier in the night than I was. I simply asked, "Mom, is everything okay?" As I was speaking, I began to realize something as my eyes continued to adjust to the darkness. My mother's face was entirely blank. Not blank in the sense that she had no emotion. I mean, she had no facial features. I was in a state of shock. I couldn't move. After I finished speaking, all that the figure did was simply tilt its head, standing still for what felt like a minute, and then turn and walk down the hall. I was too scared to leave my room for obvious reasons, but I did later check on my mom that night. She was sound asleep in her room. The obvious answer to this whole thing is that she was sleepwalking and that I must have just been seeing things. But I asked her in the morning whether or not she ever used to sleepwalk or still currently does. According to her, she's never done it. She's never done that, and I've never caught her doing that ever since. It's just me and her in the house as well. I still can't explain what happened that night, but I'd like to think that maybe I was just really tired and seeing things, though I felt wide awake in the moment. That's where that one ends. Yeah, possibly a mimic. I wonder uh, if it was. Yeah, looking at the chat here, but I wonder if it was the mom having an out of body experience somehow. I don't know, and I wonder about this as well. When it comes to out of body experiences, do people always appear in when they're out of body as they would when they're in body? Is that a set thing? Or would they appear differently depending on what they're thinking or feeling or what the person is perceiving of that figure? I feel like it could go either way with that one or with similar accounts like that. Um, so I don't know. It's really hard to say. Um, that makes me wonder if the mom was asleep and just happened to be thinking of their child, and it somehow led to an out of body experience going to check on them. And then when they realized they were noticed, going back. So I had a couple of out of body experiences. Um, One where I was in the same house as someone who was awake, and but we were in two different rooms, but I could see her. It was my grandma. After my grandpa had passed, and I found myself one night in the dining room. Uh, yeah, our poor kids stayed at the screen way too long. Yeah, I mean, studying some of the ways, some of those classes and everything from school could really get you in deep with homework and all that. But um, so in this one case, when I had this, I've had many out of body experiences, and among other things, and while I've been sleeping, and this one case, I found myself in my grandparents' house. I was in the dining room, just sitting on the floor, or at least standing on the floor. I can't really say. I was just in the dining room, and I could see into the living room, and my grandma was up, and she was sitting at the table, dining room, no, not dining room, living room coffee table, and I think she was playing cards. I couldn't see the cards from where I was at, but she would play solitaire on there, and and at first I was excited because there was my grandma. I wanted to say hi to my grandma, but I started thinking about it, and I was wondering what would I look like? What would I sound like to her or to anyone? And I I was thinking if I don't appear normal or sound normal, then I'm gonna scare the heck out of my grandma, and I did not want to do that. So I just stayed there, and I even closed my eyes. And eventually, I got tired, and I left, and I woke up back at home again. Because again, I didn't want to frighten her. Um, and I had another, not quite as close of an account, a call, but I had another experience sometime later where I had gone to sleep in the middle of the day because I started doing that more and more as I got older, and I found myself having an out of body experience. I was in the basement of the house that used to belong to my aunt and uncle, where I had my first experiences, which is not that's happened several times over the years, so it's not totally uncommon. But I was in the basement, and I remember I went toward the stairs and started moving up the stairs, and I didn't make any sound, and I didn't really feel like I was walking necessarily. I just felt like I was moving. But anyway, I got up to the top of the stairs, the basement stairs, and the door was closed. And I was gonna go and just look around at first because I was really curious what the house looked like and just if I would see anything. If I was having a regular out of body experience where it was the present time or if it was something else. Because I had some weird ones with time anomalies mixed in with the out of body experience as well, I believe. And but as I got to the door, I heard people somewhere off in another part of the house. I heard people talking, and of course, I didn't recognize their voices. And so I stopped, and I didn't open the door or try to go through the door because they wouldn't have known me. And again, what would I have looked like to them or sounded like to them? And I didn't want to frighten anyone, cause any kind of harm in any way to anyone, even accidentally. Just in trying to figure out, because I mean, I was curious. I still am curious. What would someone look like or sound like when they were having such a clear out of body experience? What would be the interaction between them and a person who was wide awake? But I just couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do that to anyone. So I just stayed there by the doorway, and eventually I started to get tired and close my eyes again, and that's how it almost always happens with those experiences where it's like I have a limited amount of energy that I have available to me when I'm out of body, and eventually I get tired and I wake up back at home. Excuse me. So anyway, just uh, just wondering about that account there of that person's experience. If it was their mom um, having an out of body experience, or it could have been a mimic. It's really hard to say. But moving on to the next one here. This one says, so we were just on the couch watching a show like usual. Let me see here. I'm guessing you mean their girlfriend or partner. She'd taken medication, so I knew she was going to probably be going to bed soon. Uh, After the episode, she did her usual door check to make sure everything was locked. She can't go to bed without that uh, making sure that the windows and doors are shut and locked. I followed her to the bedroom to lay with her for a little bit while she fell asleep. Not 15 seconds into laying there with her, we heard absolutely clear as day this clacking sound coming from my kitchen. It was loud. I could hear it with my bedroom door closed. It honestly sounded like something with some real weight was walking around my kitchen. So I locked my bedroom door. She called her friend, and we just heard this thing walking around my house. After 2 to 3 minutes, it just stopped. I tentatively went out of the bedroom and looked around. My entire house. Empty. Door was locked. Every window shut. I have no clue what happened, but that was the strangest thing I have ever experienced in my life. And that's where that one ends. Um, Footsteps are a weird thing to hear, and especially when they're that heavy. Sounds almost like they're, I don't know, stomping or something. Uh, it is an odd thing. I can't remember ever having heard any footsteps directly that I couldn't explain. I have heard doors opening and closing. Uh, Again, going back to that house where my aunt and uncle used to live when I used to go visit my cousin all the time. As we got a little bit older, we had less of the visual sightings of things in that house. But whenever his parents would be gone, we'd just in the middle of the day, and we'd just be there ourselves, and we'd be upstairs in his room or whatever, usually playing video games of some kind. We would be hearing the doors opening and closing on the ground floor. And the first couple of times we went down to look and see what was going on, but all the doors were always right where they had been. Um, and so eventually, after a while, we just stopped going down there to look and see about the doors whenever we heard that sound. And eventually, that sound stopped too. So I don't know if it was a residual because of the way it stopped eventually. Once we stopped trying to go and look and see what was going on, um, but um, but it was odd. So I mean, there's some footsteps is a really common thing if you look into reports of activity in places. I know in my haunted places in the U.S. series, almost every location that I find that I cover, it seems you usually have reports of people hearing footsteps. It's just really common. Footsteps when there's no one there that you're aware of, and then you check and there's no one. Um, so it really is common, and I think some probably could be residual in some cases, and others maybe not so much. So it's you have to go case by case, I guess. Um, Dawn in the chat says one house I heard footsteps every night. Residual from the older person getting up at 4 a.m. to milk cows. Bathroom door and outside door too. Yeah, so I do think that's definitely one type of that situation. Yeah, definitely. So I always I always laugh, but also feel bad for anyone for the next person that moves in here eventually someday when I move out, and however that ends up going, and because I feel like they're gonna just be hearing residual sounds of me recording the podcast, um, and talking about all these weird things and just talking into the night and be like, who is that guy that will not shut up? And he's almost always talking at night. So, but oh well, what are you gonna do? Uh, moving on to the next one here. This one, let me scroll down a little bit again, and this one says, my grandpa was put to rest 10 years ago. I was 11 at the time. I was really close to him when I was younger. I was at the funeral when he was buried, but I never saw him again until today. I'm not an overly religious person, but maybe a bit spiritual. I drove up to a graveyard that felt almost like I had to go there. I was also thinking about my grandpa at the time. I didn't know where I was at the time, though, as I live in a big city. I am also going through a lot of stress personally and at work. So I pulled over and walked straight into the middle of the cemetery, and for some reason, my body had this almost instinctive feeling to go left. There was another person being laid to rest, but for some reason, I still insisted on going that direction. Not being in dress clothes, I'd usually feel like it's a bit disrespectful, but still I insisted. For some reason, after waiting a bit, I paused and stopped, looking to my left. There he was, my grandpa. I'm guessing they mean the grave. Has anyone had this weird hunch? I'm not sure if my brain just found this place familiar. Is there some superstitious or paranormal reason to why I went there? It's just weird that I thought of him and then I went to a random big graveyard because I thought I had to in the middle of the city, only to pinpoint his grave's exact location. That's weird. That's where that one ends, but I just thought I heard a voice real quick for a split second. Huh, okay. Anyway, sounded like a woman's voice, but maybe not. I don't know. Um, and as far as that account goes, I've heard similar accounts before. Sometimes with people who were not aware of exactly where their relative's grave was, being led there by feelings like this, like the person described. Um, Other times, going to places and feeling drawn to a grave and then finding out about a person after the fact, and there was a person that they had no connection to, but it's like that this other person's consciousness was there or something and wanted attention, wanted to be recognized, and that's what led to these people being drawn in these situations to those graves. So I've heard of both sort of both situations before. Uh, so yeah, it was that's not too uncommon, that account there. And yeah, I could have swore I heard like a really quick whisper sound, voice kind of thing as I was talking there. Um, so and Logan has also been sort of coming and going by me this whole time. So who knows? Maybe there's some energy about tonight that is usually not here. So possible. Um, all right. So let's move on to the next one here. Also, Logan likes to ram her head into solid objects like table legs and things, so she just did that once. So if you hear anything, it might be that. But you probably won't, because no one. Whenever I say anything about sounds, hardly anyone ever actually hears the sounds along with me. So I'm probably worrying for nothing. But anyway, let's see. Let me get to this next one here, and this one's a longer one. Looks like. So let's see why. Find out why I chose a longer one like this. Here we go. Around 2 years ago, I lived with my ex-boyfriend at his parents' house. They bought it off an old woman around 12 years ago. Throughout my time staying in the house, I felt a little on edge, like someone was watching me. It was very eerie and a little difficult to explain. I spent a lot of time in the house alone and felt like someone was watching me, even though I had seen absolutely nothing out of the ordinary as of yet. I obviously live somewhere different now and haven't experienced this in my new flat. One night we went to bed and everything was absolutely fine. Nothing strange. We turned the lights off and my partner at the time went to sleep. I was still awake as I have trouble sleeping. I sat up in the bed and saw an old man crouched down at the bottom of our bed in the dark, wearing a farmer's hat and smiling. It was a strange smile, like something out of a horror movie. His eyes were wide open, and he was sort of just grinning. He didn't move a muscle. I was absolutely terrified, and screamed at the top of my lungs, waking my partner up. He immediately woke up and asked me what was wrong, but at this point I had hidden under the covers and was extremely reluctant to come out. My partner at this point had gotten out of the bed and turned the lights on, and obviously nothing was there. He told me I was just being ridiculous. That's always lovely. And I was probably seeing things in my sleep. But whatever I saw felt so real, and I was definitely not asleep. The next day, when my partner returned home from work, and so did his parents, we had dinner together. His mom had asked me why I was screaming last night, and I explained the story to her. She told me that the reason the old lady had sold the house was because her husband had died and she wanted to downsize. I explained what the old man looked like that night, and she told me that he did indeed wear a farmer's cap. My partner's mom at the time had seen him around in the village they live in, as she was a local and only lived a few doors down before they purchased the house in the cul-de-sac they now live in. To this day, nobody believes me, and they still think I was just seeing things. Again, always lovely. But I had no prior knowledge of the man that lived in the house, and I can't put it down to me just seeing things. To this day, I still think about it sometimes and really question myself as to whether I actually did see a ghost, but I just don't know. Coincidentally, my ex partner's mom also told me that my partner's room was also the old bedroom of the wife and the husband who died there. All very strange, but it's been the only experience I've ever had with the paranormal. I still wonder if it was a ghost, why show themselves to me, and not any of the people that had been living there years before me. And that's where that one ends. As to that last question there, it could have been a matter of sensitivity levels. Um, It does sound like I mean, the way that the family reacted to it that wasn't the kindest in a lot of ways there, um, saying that she was seeing things. So maybe they just were not open enough to see anything. But it's hard to say for sure. So I don't know. Um, I always get really annoyed when I hear accounts like that, that people just tell people, "Oh, you were just seeing things." In other words, oh, just your imagination, your mind playing tricks on you. And just that instant explanation or dismissal is, yeah. For anyone that's out there that has someone tell them about an experience, don't do that. Because even if you don't mean it in a negative way, it's still it's still not pleasant to have in your mind that people think that you are making things up or seeing things that weren't there, or that you are you don't have any idea what you're experiencing. It's just not a fun experience. So let's see here. So we'll go through these next four for sure, and then we'll see where we're at as far as time goes. But let's see. And okay. This next one says, last night I was on a video chat call with my friend, and suddenly he had this terrified look on his face. He asked if someone was in my room and said that he saw something behind me. I brushed it off and didn't think much of it. Today, a couple of hours ago, my mom ran out into the living room in a panic from her bathroom, which is in the back of her room, and was asking if I was in her room, but I was in the kitchen. She said she saw a black silhouette fly by really quickly, and that it was like nothing she'd ever seen before. Afterwards, I texted my friend I was talking with, and then the voice chat from before, and told him what my mom had just experienced. I asked him to describe what he saw again because I really didn't understand what he was trying to tell me at the time. He said he saw a black silhouette behind me that was taller than me. I'm 5 feet 9 inches tall. He said my head was at the silhouette's torso. He said he thought someone was in my room. This was my parents' house that I'm at for a few weeks, and we never experienced anything like this growing up. It's not an old home. Any advice or thoughts on what it means? We're a little freaked out, and that's where that one ends. Um, no advice really. Hopefully, it was just someone passing through the area. It's always hard to tell. That is not the first account I've read, even on the show and off the show, where people have seen things, paranormal or anomalous things, on the images of voice video chat calls. I'm not the best technology, so don't know the exact name for that, but that's not the first time I've heard of an account like that. And as I always say, as technology gets more and more common and widespread, and more people and get more and more familiar with it, and then eventually pass, I think we're going to have more and more of these anomalous or paranormal experiences that happen that do involve technology in some way. So um, that is an odd one. But that's also odd because it was seen not just on the video, but by someone else who was unaware of that first experience in the same house. So I don't know what to make of that, except it does seem like there was something there. Let me see here. Um, Moving on to the next one here. This one says, something happened, and I've always been skeptical. Until today. I am an undertaker, and I uh, have been for the past 8 years. I've always been skeptical when it comes to the afterlife. To the afterlife, especially the paranormal. But today, something happened that I cannot explain. I was cleaning unclaimed ashes out of the funeral home where I work. We are moving out of the old Victorian building we operate out of into a new funeral home. For the past week, we have been making a slow transition, moving out of our current home into our new one. Excuse me. In our basement, we have unclaimed ashes going as far back as the 1970s. I just had my headphones in, putting the boxes into bags so we could send them to the local crematorium for them to be scattered. I must have put away hundreds of boxes of ashes without even thinking about it. I was just listening to a podcast, getting another task ticked off my to do list. I was putting one box into the bag and felt my body and brain freeze with the word no, but I didn't hear anything. It's hard to explain what I felt. The best way I can explain it is that my own free will had gone, and I was ordered to stop what I was doing. I stopped immediately and put the box of ashes in my hand onto the table. On closer inspection, there were two boxes I was going to put in two separate bags, one small box and one normal sized one. Let's just say, for privacy reasons, one box was labeled HW. On top of HW's ashes, there was a box labeled Baby W. I presumed they are mother and baby, who I was about to separate into two separate bags, which I find quite spooky because I didn't read the labels before. I was doing a mundane task as fast as I could with with my existing duties and cle- uh, clearing the premises. I was just trying to get things done as fast as possible. I was not paying attention to the names. I just needed to get this done. So, yeah, I cannot explain this for the life of me. I cannot come up with an explanation for this. I'm not scared, nor am I excited about what I felt. I just feel confused about the whole situation. That's where that one ends. That one to me is fascinating. I mean, obviously, it's terrible that a mother and a child, a baby, um, passed away. Um, but the fact that this person who was, again, as they were saying, they were doing their job, they were doing what they needed to do. They weren't doing anything that they meant to be bad in any way. Um, and they weren't, but they also weren't looking, which again, I can't exactly blame them for that either. If they were not told or there was no procedure for this kind of thing of putting the two boxes together in a situation like that. But again, it sounds like the the mother or someone related to those two at the very least, some consciousness spoke out and made them stop, made them um, made it so they would not separate those two boxes from each other. That is just really fascinating to me. Um, and I can't explain it either. And I do like what they were how they were describing that there. They're not into the topic of the paranormal. Um, they kind of just do what they do for their job, and they don't think about it a ton. And yet they had this experience. So I stopped when I read that one and just was wondering about that, how that works, and again, some cultures, some people are sort of more their remains are more important to them than maybe the remains are of people of other people to themselves. Not everyone is the same way, but if you think about it, if you're raised or you you do think of your remains in a certain way because of your culture or religion, and they are important, then it does make sense that they would be important enough where you might reach out and uh, sort of cause this kind of anomalous experience to happen to get your point across, whatever that point may be. So, just want to share that one because I've never come across an account quite like that before um, in the history of doing the show. So, it's that was quite the I imagine quite the experience to have, and I hope everything worked out for everyone there. I'm guessing it did because they did stop. Um, so yeah, two more here will do, and then go from there. This one says this happened a couple of weeks ago. The power went out in my building late at night, and I woke up around 1 a.m. because I heard dripping water in the hallway. I figured a pipe had burst, so I went to check. The sound led me to the stairwell, but when I leaned over the railing, the dripping just stopped. I thought I saw a woman standing a couple of flights down, looking up at me, but she didn't move or say anything. I went back into my apartment and locked the door. A minute later, I heard the dripping again, only this time it sounded like it was right outside. The next day, I asked my landlord if he could check the uh, cameras. On the footage, you can see me walk to the stairwell, lean over, and then step back, like I'd seen something. But the stairs were empty. I don't really know what to make of it. Part of me thinks I must have imagined it, but watching myself react on camera made it feel way more real. And that's where that one ends. It's a short one. I've never heard of that dripping water sound being used to try to get. I don't know if it was a way to try to get someone's attention, that person's attention there. I'm not sure, but it does sound like it moved. It was further away at first, and then it got closer. Was it that? Was it connected to that apparition? If that's what it was, of a woman in the stairwell that was not caught on camera, were they? Was she causing that sound somehow? I don't know, but it does remind me. I mean, there's plenty of accounts I've found over the years of people having water materialize in places, but I don't know if I've ever heard of just the sound of water dripping like that and then having the water not be there. So that is also a unique one in a way. And I do, I'm always, I'm glad when I can find the accounts that are somewhat unique so that I can watch for similar ones later to see if there are any patterns. And whether there are or there's not, if there are, then that's amazing because that's important. But also, if not, then that's even more amazing because how did someone think? How did some consciousness think or figure out how to make this event these sort of one-off events happen. Not so much the camera. There's plenty of accounts where people have um, where apparitions have appeared to people but not to cameras, or appeared to cameras but not to people. There's plenty of accounts with that. But the dripping sound is odd. So I don't know what to make of that part of it. But yeah, and then the power going out. I wonder if there was a storm going on either before or during the power outage that could have amplified things. Um, but either way, that's quite the experience to have. So we have one more here. Oh, that's weird. Huh. Okay. I must have been reading the clock wrong. I thought my clock said 10:57. Well, first I thought it said 10:56, and I looked again and it was 10:57. And now I look again and it looks like 10:56. So, I don't know. Time is weird. And now, of course, it does say 10:57. I'm just having a weird night. But that's alright. I've had weirder. Um, and Logan is still also staying close, so yeah. Anyway, I always pay attention to that because she does seem to know when there's things going on. So, um, so the last one here, and then I'm just gonna check things out around here. This one says, ever since I can remember, I've been able to see things. I see things from people to animals to weird creature-like things. When I was around the ages of 6 to 7, I remember my cousin and I were playing in his basement. We were close, like best friends. So he would tell me everything. He told me when he was a little younger that my aunt, his mom, made up an imaginary friend for him that lived in the basement. His name was H, and H was there to help cousin my cousin go into the basement by himself. So my cousin and I were playing hide and seek tag in his basement. I was the seeker and he was the hider. After a few minutes of looking for him, I found him and started chasing him all around his basement. I chased him into the living area that has a TV and two couches. My cousin went running around one of the couches, and I was on the other side. So now the couch is between us. I look over at the other side of the basement, and in seconds I saw this translucent figure run from one wall across the basement, hop over the couch that was between us, and straight through the wall on the other side of the room. I looked at my cousin and yelled, I saw him. I saw H. My cousin laughed and said H wasn't real. H was just imaginary. I kept telling my cousin over and over again that I saw H run across the basement, hop over the couch that was between us, and through the wall. But my cousin kept saying H was not real while laughing at me. Always, I don't like to hear that. I am 30 now, and to this day, I still don't know what I saw. I saw something, somebody, but I don't know who or what it was. And that's where that one ends. There are accounts I found over the years um, where people would have imaginary friends, uh, or what they thought were imaginary friends in some cases, and it turns out there's a history of someone that looked a lot like the imaginary friend having lived in the area, or even being a relative of the friend that had lived before, that had passed, that was still around. There's plenty of others like this one where it's someone that either the experiencer or someone they know had made up, had literally come up with this identity of this other being, um, and yet there was still activity after this was done. And so, again, does that mean in some cases imaginary friends were actually spirits of people that have passed before, and in other cases they were actually thought forms made up by the people involved? I think both could be possible, and I do wonder with that last account there. Um, did the mom uh, basically making this imaginary friend, whether she meant to focus on it so much or not, and maybe even the cousin, the son, the two of them, between the two of them, even just thinking about it in any way, did that somehow create this thought form that then the writer, the who was the cousin to the mom and or to the kid, and then his aunt. Uh, that sounds very confusing. Anyway, hopefully you all know what I mean. The person that wrote that post, who was visiting their relatives, saw that thought form somehow, either because of sensitivity or whatever the case may be. I think that's a fascinating idea there as well. So, yeah, this time of year is for visiting family, passed on loved ones. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, so anyway, I think that'll do it for this episode. I'm going to just do a quick walk around the apartment and see what if anything's out of place or whatever. And I'm sure nothing really is as far as anything major, but it's just funny because it's been a weird night. Thank you all for listening, and I will talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. And take care.